we have it. Good. All right, there we go. So how the heck are you? Oh, let's do a crappy to happy scale. And as those of you who have done this before, remember that 1 is equal to crappy, like, you know, things are going so great, to 7, that you're happy. So, oh, there we go. Naomi has started us off in chat with where she's at. Where am I today? Ooh. Where's my exclamation mark? There it is. There. 6, 5, 6. Oh, wow. You guys, look at you. We are a good, happy bunch. Wow. Why are we so happy? I'm not knocking it. I'm just curious because it's Friday. It is. It's Friday. We're into December. Welcome, Yuji. We're into December. How many of you work on semesters? Like, will you have a, oh, Ask Me Tuesday. So what's happening on Tuesday, Ellen?
Oh, sorry, I'm a mess here. No, just early in the week, you just have the week ahead of you and you're just like, whoa, I'm tired and I still have 7 classes and you know what I mean? So just, it's a Friday. I always feel good on a Friday. I can drink wine tonight.
I know, you know, it's such a waspy thing, but I realized it a long time ago that like my favorite point of the whole week was Friday evenings, because it's just like, it's the end of the week, you know, and you have permission to stop working. So anyway, well, good. It's great to see everybody. So anybody have anything you want to bring to the group? Any announcements? Naomi, we saw your announcement on your position. I don't know about you guys, but I have never seen so many open positions out there in parent ed and in early childhood all over the state. Oh my gosh, and Carly is back. Everybody's coming back today. How fabulous. So does anybody have anything for the group? Anything you want to share, announcements, anything like that? Or a good old fashioned, good practical practice question that will get us helping you out?
Well, I maybe have one. So we've been talking, I heard a great seminar this week in my other field, but it was talking about questions to ask youth. And it was, what if we stopped asking people what they want to be and ask them who or how they want to be? So that would be my question. How do you want to be, or who do you want to be this week?
Yeah, Mary Kay, I've seen that too. Like, it talks about how sometimes parents are so concerned about their child, you know, behaving, you know, but it's like you want your child to be kind and you want them to be friendly and you want them to be welcoming and open. So I think that's a really good question to ask parents too, you know, like thinking about how do you want them to treat treat people. It's better than grades or who the end result is. It's not really what the end result is, it's who they are in that end result.
Well, for role modeling, we know that for kids, parents doing that is a significant marker in how kids become. And I remember, and since I've been doing this 100 years, I don't remember exactly where I heard this, but somewhere in there I heard that all of us who are working will have 7 careers during our lives. We will change fields 7 times on average. I think it might have been when I don't think it was when I was starting teaching. I think it might have been somewhere in the middle. So that would put it at about in the last 20 years. So, and they're not talking about jobs, they're talking about careers. And I was just thinking this morning how everything I do impacts everything else I do. And someone was working on my office computer. So I had my school computer in the car, so I went and got that so I could still get work done for this job, even though I'm using the school computer, which is exactly what I do when I'm there and have something that I need to, I don't consider that work time for that. Like if I'm not working for school, I don't consider it school work time. I don't bill for that. But sometimes it's just really helpful to have a variety of resources.
If I can respond to your question, Mary Kay, when I think it's an excellent question. For me, if I'm thinking about this week coming up, so at the university, we're in our last week of classes. And so I have 2 more classes with my undergraduates. And what I'm finding with the students, and I don't know if you all are seeing this with your work with families, they're just dead, you know, they're just overwhelmed and tired. And they are just like, their little cups are down to about 1 ounce, you know, and they're really finding, and I understand this, lots of shortcuts. And so I'm kind of in this place of feeling compassionate, but at the same time compromised, so that that I am I'm really strong in building community in my classroom and wanting people to be present, and you know, and all of that. And when you put so much effort into what you do, right? And so is kind of that line between being overly compassionate so that you sacrifice your principles, and kind of be, you know, kind of sticking to the principles and yet feeling guilty, right? And so I think what I want to be this coming week, and I also really appreciate your putting a time frame on it, because sometimes those questions I think can be asked in such a broad way, like who do you know, not what do you want to be, but who do you want to be? And certainly as I face retirement, I'm finding, you know, very traditionally people say, oh, well, what are you going to do? You know, so I appreciate the 1 week, because we do flex, you know, in what we want to do or who we want to be, or, you know, coming up. So I would say, for me, what I want to be is in the next week is true to myself. Because I think what I find is if I trust myself, because that's when I start to worry, you know. And so if I trust myself and I have confidence in that I am a compassionate person and I am a good teacher, right? And to just be present and to listen, like it'll be fine. It'll be fine. And I won't feel compromised and everything will be fine. So I really appreciate the question. Yeah.
Susan, I happen to be a student again at the U of M. I just can't stop. What can I say? So I'm curious if you have an example of what caused you to feel you were compromising, and is there an analogy with families or colleagues?
So I think this idea of attendance is a good one. And I also reflect on, you know, I've had this wonderful opportunity with the voices of the educators from last spring. And one of the things that came out from that was about attendance and about the concern about families not being present and not showing up, right? And during COVID. And all of the ways that the educators were flexible. And I mean, it really is astounding the number of ways that you all adapted your teaching so that you were truly trying to listen to what do families need to be able to attend, whether that's online, whether that's at home, whether that's in person, whether that's outside, whether it's starting outside and then we go in and then it's only a couple kids and then, or whatever. And so all of those adaptations to work on attendance, but yet, and it was this kind of reciprocal experience of that you're putting all this effort in, and then you're fed by families' attendance. You're fed by families' appreciation and everything, which gives you that motivation to continue, right? And so I think where I'm finding this compromise or this feeling of being compromised in my own values is almost a frustration of, come on, you guys, you can't even make it to my class, after all I do for you. So maybe what it is just keeping my own emotions in check, my own expectations, and also going into what should be a room of, say, 44 students, and finding, I think I counted 18 yesterday. And we have a Zoom link available for the COVID kids. So if you've been exposed to COVID or something, you could still join class, but it's a very exceptional kind of thing. And kids are now just Zooming in and they're not even showing up, right? And so I think that it's just an emotional compromise, to be honest with you, Christy, of continuing to be able to do my job and realize and be compassionate and be understanding and just say, if they can show up, they can. If they can't, they're dealing with their own stuff. They're responsible for their own learning, yada, yada. And just find my joy in the way and with the kids who are there and whatever. So I don't know if any of that's making sense or answers your question, but I think maybe the response is just sort of my own emotional check-in,
I think it's interesting that you said that, Susan, because Mankato State has in their child development family studies program a parent ed class. So it's undergrads. It has nothing to do with becoming parent educators, but it's just introducing those students to that's a field. And I spoke with that group on Wednesday. It was their last day of class. And I spoke with Heather Van Bank, their professor, at the end, and she kind of expressed the same. Like, they had the option all year, and her students was like half and half online, half at school. And then as the years progressed or the semesters progressed, they're all online. And I think too, like, all of us have felt it, where it's like when you're online and parents are distracted, it's really hard to feel that passion for what you're doing when you don't get that response, or when everyone's cameras are off.
Mm-hmm.
I teach a lot of classes online where parents have their cameras off, and I feel like I'm just talking to myself, and I don't think I come off as my best self when I don't get that feedback.
Yeah.
I was thinking too, and I have my camera off because I'm taking a walk between professional development Zooms. So I usually have my camera on. But Christy, we had a situation at work this week where we were compromising, which we would have never done in a pre-COVID world, but because of a certain situation, we're still thinking about making the compromise. So it's hard, because do you just do that, or do you go back to your original expectations of certain situations?
And I think with parents, there's the whole other component of having to let go of what's not in our control. I just, Susan, could relate entirely to your situation, because as I've shared earlier in the semester with my English language learners, I put easily double the amount of work into that class. I pour a lot of myself into it, trying to make it as accessible as possible. I do stuff on slides. I try to find translations of everything. It's affected a lot of my lesson prep, and it takes an enormous amount of time and energy. And I usually have 1 or 2 parents come out of the 6 who are signed up. Sometimes 3, and that feels like an awesome day when I get 3. And yet I was really moved by someone's comment earlier in one of our talks about how, like, if I'm feeling anxious or frustrated, or that like it's not going to be possible for my parents to not feel what I'm feeling. You know what I mean? Like, I will be putting that out there into the world. And it's been enormously freeing, even though I get frustrated and it's just like, oh, okay, I had this whole lesson and there's only one parent. So we're not going to do that lesson. We're going to do the previous lesson that I already did last week, but there was a different one parent who showed up. So we're just going to, like, there's been something freeing in just like not depending on their attendance, not depending on having that feedback for myself. It's been hard, but like some of my type A, just kind of trying to let it go and just like, okay, this is what is today. This is what we're going to do today. Has been challenging, but I think a place of growth for me. You can't like force your students to come, right? They're gonna, and if they're stressed and overwhelmed and Zoom is the easier way to do it, that's, yes, I think you're right, Yuji. I think it was Sarah. It made a really big impact on, like, I need to be in my emotional place of calm and acceptance and openness and not frustration or anxiety to have a good class. And it's been meaningful. Sorry if that was very roundabout. That I very much relate to what you're saying, but also that I've grown a bit and been able to let things go a little bit better.
Yeah, and I think that one of the clear differences too of sort of my experience teaching courses is that they're for credit and they're for grades, and these are undergraduates who are they're so overwhelmed. I mean, these kids, when you realize that they're taking 5 or 6 courses and, you know, all of these things, is that it takes the joy, it takes the joy out of teaching when they're turning a learning experience into points, right? So if I just Zoom in, will I still get points for attending, right? And so, because I'm completely there with you, like, in fact, like the students like my energy and things like that, and I can be that person for however many people show up, right? It's just my slight being frustrated at the students are like, well, I'm not going to show up, but I'll just Zoom in, and then you're going to give me the points for being in your class, right? And then that starts going against what we're there for, right? Which is why I'm going to be really happy not to be teaching at the university, you know, to go back into the community and teach if people want to show up, right? To do more things like this, because it's not based on credits. Like, then it's like you can be there and we can learn together. And if you can't be there, I'm sorry for you, right? But you're not reducing all of this to points and worried about graduating on time, you know. So.
And I think attendance, I hadn't really thought about this. So things are kind of plopping into place, but it definitely feels like, well, no one's coming, so what we're doing isn't valuable. So it really is like pushing that out of our head. And I know for me, it's hard, like you said, Becca, to put a ton of work into updating a lesson plan when you're like, no one showed up last week, or, you know, 2 families came, or we didn't get to the topic anyway. We're all tired, right? Like, and I have a 16 and a 13-year-old who are just really having crappy years. So my mom head is like crowding out my teacher head. And so like, I open a file and I'm like, okay, we're going to talk about this today. And I'm just like, I don't have it in me to create something new. So I'm frustrated with my lessons. I'm frustrated with attendance. I'm frustrated, you know, so I'm kind of having a hard time like keeping up when attendance is so low, and trying to keep things fresh. But yeah, it is, like you said, Susan, it's keeping those emotions in check with like there for who's there. But I really need to pull myself together for January and like really do some updating and making things more fun for my families. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of talking out loud, but I'm definitely feeling that tying my achievement to attendance, and I have to stop doing that.
And fun for you, Ellen. You know, I mean, I honestly, that's kind of where I'm going now, is like, you know, I started class yesterday with telling jokes, you know, and because I like jokes and I'll show pictures of my dog, right, and stuff like that. And it's just like whatever's going to get you through. And my experience with the students, and maybe parents, your parents are different, but is like, if I'm having a good time, they're having a better time. Right, they're having it makes it more fun for them to come to class. So I think I really appreciate everything you're saying about sort of amping it up for your parents in January, but I really want you to do it for you. I mean, I want you to do things that will make it fun and exciting for you to be there too.
I just have just a thought about that. All of my classes this semester, we haven't done one thing that I have planned out, written lesson plans for, brought in, you know, handouts. We haven't done one thing. Parents just are coming together. They just want to talk. Like, and I'm giving them the option. Whereas before I would have allowed that to happen and then we would have just kind of transitioned into our topic and talked about it. But as I'm just reading the room, they just want to talk about everything. And I think in the past, I would have felt like I was being kind of railroaded. But right now, the feeling is that families, they just want to talk about what's ever on their mind. And it's hard because I'm feeling, a part of me is feeling very ineffective. And then the other part of me is proud of myself for reading the room and allowing them to just talk about whatever they need to talk about. But it's hard because you all are saying you're doing the work. I'm writing lesson plans. I'm bringing in books and doing handouts and doing all of that. And it's not what they need right now. In terms of my families that I'm teaching, it's just not what they need. There's an infant class that I just started, and I think I get 3 words in the whole hour because the parents just want to talk to one another. And it's really hard for me to let that happen because I feel like, well, then what's my job? Why am I here? You don't need me. But I think that's what our families are needing, right? Well, my families in terms of where I'm at.
That's been my SMART goal for like 3 years in a row now, is how do I make my portion of a lesson the lower percentage to the parents' time to just talk. And I agree. I think there's sometimes that I'm just like, but you guys, I have this lesson. You said you wanted to talk about this and I brought it really well. And now you don't want to talk about it. But at the same time, I always remind myself, and I have a class that's similar to that, where we get into the parent ed room and I literally could be gone that day and they would be fine without me. But I'm also like, that's the class I'm the most proud of, because I'm like, isn't the point of coming to ECFE, yes, to learn parenting stuff, but also to find your tribe, find your group, who is going to support you through this? Because we know that if you parent on an island, you're pretty lonely and you're not your best self. And this particular group of parents, I have a pediatrician who's a parent. I have a mom whose mother is a child psychologist. And like, so I have a lot of people with like professional careers themselves or coming in with professional, family members. But sometimes in those moments, I'm like, oh, thank you. Like, I don't want to be the one putting on a show for you. I want to create a space where you guys can talk to each other, and I'll plug in little pieces here and there and support and ideas, but I love it when they can just carry the conversation.
And that, Naomi, is where I feel, oh, sorry, I talked over
I was
someone.
just going to say, I got to disagree with you on something. I don't think the conversation would go as well if you weren't there. haven't you had that, I don't know, I can think of a class where I had to be gone, got a sub, and I had that idea like, okay, so if there's no sub, no big deal, they'll still talk. And when I came back the next week, they were like, whoa, we need you here, because we don't know what you do, but that didn't go so well, right? I think sometimes we have this automaticity with our skills, like I know everyone here does. And so I don't know. I also am working with a student teacher who said to me and is a longtime participant and said, wow, this is way harder than I thought it would be. Like you all make it look so easy. And how do you do this? And so I just want you all to know that I'm sure that while they're talking, like it's your skills that bring out what they want to talk about, and that it's relevant to their lives, and that they're better parents because of what you did that day, even though they were just talking. Just my 2 cents.
So maybe it's not worrying so much about getting a new lesson and doing the content and making sure it's good. Like you said, Naomi, like I have a good lesson. I spent tons of time. I did a whole really great lesson on gratitude. Because, after Thanksgiving, I usually like to do it before Thanksgiving because parents always like, we're going to do a thankful tree or we're going to do a thankful pumpkin or whatever. And gratitude is a complex, it's a complex skill for little kids. So it's more about modeling. So I had a really cool lesson. We were going to write down like, how do you show gratitude? How do, and how many times in my 10 classes I did it this week? 0. You know what I mean? So, but I was reading the room and they didn't need it. And plus we didn't have class last week. So like, it's been 2 weeks. So yeah, it's that balance of what do they need? What do I think they need? I worked on this really cool thing. Now I guess I'll just stick it in next year's folder. So when I open up my gratitude file, I'm like, oh, look, I have a lesson I've never used. But then it's like, oh, do I even need to jazz this up? Because am I even going to use it? So, and I think it's taking away that I'm still good at my job, even though I didn't get to teach this awesome lesson that I created. Yeah, it's hard to sometimes measure our success.
I think it
And we measure
is.
it in really stupid ways like attendance or thank you notes. Or, yeah.
Well, and I appreciate too what you said, Christy, because going into maternity leave and the idea of like turning over my classes to somebody else, that's a very new concept to me. And I'm trying to figure out like, how do I, not knowing the person coming in, share what I do in an effective way? Kind of like Christy said, when you have a student teacher come in and it's just like, how did you make this look so seamless? And I'm like, how do I explain in this lesson, if parents take it this direction, this is what I say. And if they take it this direction, this is what I say. Because although I would love to believe that there's a parent educator out there who's going to take over my classes, it also could be a science teacher who has never, ever done this before. And I'm like, how do I support you and leave you with these groups of parents that I've built a really strong relationship with? Like when I put my post out there, I was being truly honest. I have no classes this year that are like, oh, I can't believe it's this day in this class. Like each class brings something unique. And I really am enjoying this school year. And so the idea of turning it over is terrifying.
Your parents will appreciate you all the more when they don't have you for a really long length of time.
That's my hope. But I hope they also like the person that comes in, and that the person who comes in also builds that relationship with them and can give them what they're looking for this year, because I want them to walk away liking ECFE and coming back to ECFE.
Oh, Naomi, I think this is I so understand what you're saying. And maybe this is just too many years, but you're going to drive yourself a little crazy if I mean, you can't worry about it. I mean, of course, we care about it because we care about our parents and our families and our kids, right? And we want them to continue learning without us. And especially when we hear, like, as Christy was saying, you know, is like, well, they'll carry on without me. And then you come back and they'll go, oh, we so much needed you, you know? So we know that we also have this tremendous place in their learning, but you're also facing the experience of what you're doing for yourself and for your family and your new baby and all of that, right? And this is where you just have to kind of let it go and just have the confidence that the families will be okay. And also, if you were in a system that had a guarantee that you would be replaced by a parenting educator, but the fact that it's a stupid system that you could be replaced by a science teacher who really doesn't know anything, right? And or know anything about parenting or really care that much about parenting, right? Well, that's not your fault, right? That's not, and there's very little that you can do, right, to control that. And so I think because we are so passionate and we care about what we do, it makes it really easy for us to just extend that, you know, beyond, to the point that it can kind of drive us a little bit crazy at a time when we should be paying and could be paying more attention to the number one thing that's important, which is our own health and well-being, and, you know, and things like that. So I don't know, I've sort of reached sort of a compassion compromise of like, it's not my responsibility to save the world. It's not my responsibility to be there, to be, you know, like to help these parents or these students or whatever, like move on, you know, and that I've got to trust that I can come back to them and they'll be fine. I have to trust that they'll go on in their lives and find other mentors and leaders and people who will give them what they need, and just kind of trust that the universe will take care of this, because I can do as much as I can. And that's the other problem, is when we are super responsible, competent, caring people, there's not a boundary for us. There's never a thing where we go, I've done it all, you know, because there's always something where we can think that we could do, right? And so I think some of that too is like going, it's okay not to do more. It's okay to say, I've done enough, right? I am going to trust that everything is going to be fine. The few people out there who need my personal contact, because we have that kind of relationship, I'll make sure that they're taken care of, right? And then I'll just have to move on, right?
A couple weeks ago.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, a couple weeks ago in one of our night classes, the children's teacher and parent educator were both out sick. And the person for the parent ed class had never done it before and had no experience with it. And so I was supposed to do the children's job and she was supposed to do the parent ed job. And I was feeling so responsible for those parents because I knew them. And I was like, we can switch and you can do this part. And she's like, no, I really want to try it. And I was having those feelings of, okay. But she had a good lesson plan from the PE teacher, and it actually went very well. Even though she had never done it before, it was a group of connected parents, and they had someone facilitating. So I agree. We just have to let some stuff go.
That was me. I was
Yes,
the PE
Sarah,
that was missing, and
you
it was
were.
torture. It was torture.
You
for me
wanted to
have
be there. And I wanted to take your parents, but
I know.
she wanted to try, and she really did a nice job.
Yep.
So we do have to have faith, and someone's going to help us when we need it. And you're having a baby, so enjoy your baby.
I know my coworker keeps telling me, she's like, you can stress all you want beforehand. She's like, trust me, once you walk out this door, you are not going to think about us, and you are going to be so upset when you have to come back to us. And I was like, you're probably right. But right now, that's not how I'm feeling.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, if you're actually worried about like the experience being really bad because of all the unknowns, not for you, for the families, just make sure they know that you are coming back, right? and those families that you've had for a while, and you know they know how it should be, like, let them know before you leave. It's like, hey, this facilitating thing, you're really good at that. Can you help make sure that it keeps going? You know, like let them shoulder a little of that, because parents want it to be good too. And then she's totally right. Your coworker, it's going to be gone. It's like, I'm not there anymore. You're going to be in your wonderful new place.
Naomi, I'm totally resonating with you. Just thinking back to what Shelley said about that, just that one day when I wasn't at school and seating my parent, like I'm feeling really bonded and protective of my families. And I'm realizing a couple things, like when I realized I wasn't going back to Edina, my first question to my supervisor was, who's gonna talk to the families? Right. So I'm just sitting alongside you with this. And then I'm also realizing that I've never taken a maternity leave. Like I worked and then I became a full-time parent. And then I had some other pursuits that were flexible. And sometimes I had to take a day or two, but I really went back to school and re-entered the workforce after my kids were, school age. And so I'm just feeling for you the tension and the struggle that many women feel torn. And I also would add that I think it's a sign of how much you love your work, because if you hated your job, you'd be like, see ya, but you're not. So it's meaningful work and it's hard. It's all the things.
Well, and I think too, knowing that like I came into this field early on in my career because I realized that I love early childhood and I absolutely love everything about early childhood. But I also realized when I was working in a childcare setting, my favorite part of the day was pick up and drop off. I loved that connection with parents, and thinking forward in my life, I was like, parent ed is the best of both worlds. I get to experience the kids in the classroom, and then I also get that adult communication time. And then I get to share all of my passion with the parents and give them ways and ideas and tips on how to support them through parenting. And so I'm really excited to come back with a different perspective, but I just keep telling myself every day I do something a little bit more to support this person. And I think everyone's right that, as much as I have a passion for the parents in my classes, they're all going to be fine. And hopefully I get to see them at the end of the year. And if I don't, then maybe I'll see them next year.
So a couple of you who are rejoining us, Angela and Stephanie, Christy, and Carly. Carly, I've been thinking about you. I know when we left, was it last spring? You're on exactly what you were going to be doing or how much you're going to be teaching was kind of up in the air. Can we do a quick check-in with some of you who are rejoining us after a few months? How is your life going? And how is the universe treating you?
Well, it's good to see everybody. Fridays just have not been a good day for me this semester, not because of work, just personal life stuff. I have lost quite a bit of my hours, assignment hours in Robbinsdale, low enrollment, also not having the opportunity to get back to doing visits with families at the Maple Grove Hospital. So I've been subbing a lot for colleagues, and I am teaching one class for parents of 16 to 20-month-olds, which is a age group I haven't taught in many years. So it's been kind of fun to prep new lessons to work with that group of parents. And it is a non-separating class. So I've also had fun with planning circle time learning and just the family ed piece for all of it. So that's been fun. And I always like to be doing a little of something. And then my assignment is always more hours second semester, because in our district we have Cindy Birch, who does and Jessica Rich, who do most of the birth to 5-month classes, and then they move up with their group. So for the 10 years I've been in Robbinsdale, I've always had the pleasure of teaching the spring baby classes, all the babies being born in the fall and early winter. So I've got, I think, 3 classes I'll be doing second semester, along with the 16 to 20 month class. And they've also been doing or planning for, once a month, we've been offering some virtual parent only classes. We've been doing it for parents of 4 to 8-year-olds, but this year we're doing topic-based ones for parents of infants and toddlers. So I kind of signed up to do the next several months. So I've also been kind of prepping and updating. For example, next week I'm doing a morning and evening session of how to manage parenting stress for parents of infants and toddlers. So I had attended the annual meeting for Little Moments Counts last week and got to listen to Dr. Garrity and some of her more recent research around trauma-informed practices. So I actually took some good notes and want to incorporate some of the information she shared just about the co-regulation piece between parent and child, and kind of bring that into the conversation of the importance of managing parenting stress. So anyway, so I have been keeping busy with lots of side projects and painting, which is why I'm where I'm at, instead of my office, because I pulled my laptop into my painting studio, which is actually my dining room right now. But anyway, so that's what I've been up to. And I don't know, it's good to see you all.
Wonderful. Thank you, Carly. So it does sound like, I know one of the things we talked about, I think it was last spring, was, and I've been kind of curious about how it's gone for a lot of you with sort of the transition back to in person, but what you've held on to online. Because one of the conversations we had was, what are those things that work better, what that we've sort of discovered might work better online? And so can we continue doing those, or are we kind of pushed back to a really traditional model when our experience with COVID has told us that, you know, whether it's outreach and communication, or whether it's a particular class, you know, or whatever it is, that some things are better with using technology. So it sounds like, Carly, you've been able to maintain that parents of infants class online?
Well, yes. So the classes that I will be teaching January through March are going to be virtual. And it's funny that you bring this up, because just, yes, well, the last week as a team, we've been saying, since we don't have a lot of district support with marketing and outreach, how can we advertise or get the word out about the new classes starting in January? And you know, of course, our brochure goes out in the spring, parents who, you know, might not have even been expecting yet. So like, how do we get word out about these classes? And I was kind of plugging for the need to market the fact that they're virtual January through March, because when I taught the last two, well, this first spring of COVID, and then all last year, the baby classes that were virtual actually went really well, because of course, new babies, you know, the distraction's not the same as having a toddler running around when you're trying to engage virtually. And I had so many comments from parents just saying, you know, of course, that was their first experience with ECFE, so they have nothing to compare it to, but saying, oh my gosh, this was so great. You know, I can't imagine taking my baby out in the middle of the winter to participate in person, or this was just so convenient. And, you know, so there are a lot of perks for doing it virtually for new parents or parents with new infants. And so we were debating all week, well, what messages could we get out, and like trying to come up with different taglines and this and that. And ultimately this morning I emailed our admin who's working on those flyers. And I'm like, all I keep thinking about are the parent quotes. So maybe we just quote them, but we were also trying to not undermine or off-put the in-person classes. So that's why I thought, well, those parenting experiences may be the best way. Like this was a great option, especially for parents with new babies in the middle of winter. Not that the in-person aren't a great option, but so anyway, so I thought I have to bring that up because again, how do we reach everybody and how do we, make it interesting enough for them to want to sign up? So I'll be curious to see what the numbers are like come January, but I know that my attendance in those virtual classes was outstanding. There just were so many barriers removed with the option of virtual last year. So anyway, so there's that.
Oh, Angela's given us an update. 24 classes, home visits, preschool, hug events. My goodness, girl. And you're in, and Angela, you're still in Hopkins, right?
I am.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of, I partner also with the preschool supervisor and I'm doing a lot with her. My job now has moved into a 52-week position. And we're just, we've got a lot going on.
Tell me about your Sunday night parent discussion.
It's a virtual parent discussion.
You have a lot of people sign up?
We do. We have, the last time I checked, we had 10. And they're pretty consistent. This is a group that basically has stayed together all through COVID though too.
I never thought about Sunday night. That's interesting.
Yeah, so they've, I'm curious now, because we just opened our second semester.
So Angela, please tell us how you've marketed these or gotten enrollments. I know you guys have some great trifolds and things like that.
Yeah.
But what's your secret?
My job is now 52 weeks. We do just a quick little flyer like this. It's got QR codes on it. And then, I don't know. We have Facebook. That's how we market. And it's gone really well through the pandemic, through last year. And most of the reason why I couldn't participate in these last year is because we were pivoting all the time. I moved our program from a 2-semester to a 3-semester so that we could see what families needed and just continued to add courses when I could, given our guidance from the state of how many things we could have open and when we could be in person and when we couldn't or whatever. And then this year we shifted back to the two semesters, and it was amazing how families were like legitimately begging us to just put classes out there come last April for summer and then fall. So we even I had 10 classes in the summer even. And we focused on the separation component that preschoolers were going to be experiencing. And that was a huge hit. They met twice a week and we had parent discussion both those days. And they wanted more. I felt bad that we couldn't offer more, but and we've had great enrollment this year. Now in classes like this past week has been a little tough. We have up to 8 families that are in most classes, and we've had an average, I would say, of 4 families per class, just because of the increase in cases and stuff like that. So, but yeah, we're just trying to hang in there. It's been a lot.
Stephanie, I feel you on that because I also am the only parent educator And I will I would hobnob with a few other ones, but I feel so much less alone coming to these because it's vital. It's vital for my professional my professional mental health because you really do feel so alone and nobody gets it. Nobody gets it. Nobody gets what you do when you're the only one in the district. So I'm
Yeah,
glad
I
you
mean,
made
it
it
helps
fun.
that it definitely helps that we have a full-time home visitor, and so she does a lot of parenting stuff too. So her and I do a lot of collaboration, which really helps. But yeah, I mean, where are you at, Ellen? I don't even know what district you're in.
I'm in Northfield.
Okay. Yeah. So, and I'm like, we're right next to Anoka Hennepin, which I don't even know how many parent educators they employ. So it's just kind of, it's a different ballgame, but it's been going well. My classes are all going really well. I love my community. My kids go to school in Spring Lake Park too. So I do feel a connection there with community and that kind of stuff. But yeah, interesting that virtual classes are kind of hit or miss in some communities from what I'm hearing because we did it during COVID, but they are really not well received anymore. Parents are just kind of like, yeah, I want to see my people again. So yeah, my one virtual class we're offering just is not going, and it's a short term, but I'm not sad at all that it's not going because I like to see the people face to face too. So
The virtual classes that we're doing ECFE for are for our outreach programs, and it's simply because we can't get into the community. We're not being allowed to bring the classes in person. Our parents are asking for in person, but I have nowhere to set up a class for them. So
It sounds to me like it really depends on parent need and different demographics. Like it totally makes sense to me that newborns in wintertime, like that's a really specific, that's not offering it for all classes, right? That's like brand new parents who are overwhelmed, isolated, and don't want to bring a baby out into the Minnesota winter. Like that makes sense. And I also think the like 4 to 8 year olds, or right when you've got the kids who are starting to be in pre-K and elementary school, and both of those pieces, the thing that they have in common is they're not trying to do the child part at all, right? It's just parenting. And I think that's huge. Like trying to make an ECFE, a full, what we know as ECFE class online. It's like we can make the best of it in a bad situation, right? But it's just really not ideal. It's not great for kids. But maybe it's a new way to reach parents who may otherwise just be on their own. I wish our district was doing more with both the babies and the elementary or early elementary parents.
we're trying to get back to welcoming. We used to do baby showers like quarterly. And I'm wondering now, having this discussion, maybe it is just a virtual option for them at this point. I mean, we offer a 0 to 24-month drop-in play group, which we're going to plan to invite those families to that feel comfortable coming to that. But maybe I do offer just some short-term virtual classes for those new families. Maybe it's just 4 weeks or something that they can pop on, and so they don't feel like they have to take that baby out in the winter. That might be a good idea.
I think offering offer it for 3 or 4 weeks and say, hop on for 1 week or all 4, make it super casual. Because a lot of parents, I think if they miss the first night, they're like, oh, I missed the first night, I guess I'm not going to join. But if you really make it an open invitation, like anytime, we'd love to see you no matter when you show up. Yep.
Yeah, maybe it runs like Monday afternoon from 2 to 3. Anybody can hop on anytime, and I'm just there, and we'll see who comes, and then be okay, like everyone said, when they don't.
Stephanie, you had mentioned the baby showers. We have done 2 of them this fall, in-person baby showers, and they were the most packed that they have ever been. It was crazy. We I'd probably say for like the last 5 years have really decreased on our infant attendance, like even just offering classes, just because we've had nobody sign up, or maybe one or two. And so we did infant Zoom classes, but then this fall we decided to just throw 2 baby showers and see what happened. And we had between 15 and 20 families come of infants. And we haven't had that for years. And then all of our in-person infant classes are full, but our Zoom infant class only has 1. And we're still running it. It's just me and her talking, which is, I mean, I am totally fine with it, because she's got some medical reasons that she can't be in person. And then I just was thinking, there is a loss when it's just me and her, for her, because I feel like ECFE is just such an opportunity for connection with other people versus just a parent ed. So on our infants class, I Zoom her in on one of our infant classes. So she's got both me, and then she Zooms into an infant class. She likes it. To me, it feels very chaotic. I'm like, how do you hear any of us talking? Because these mamas just, but they like it. So I don't know if your district is willing to do an in-person infant shower or baby shower.
Yeah,
but it has worked very successful for us.
Yeah, and maybe it's just like the COVID baby boom, and maybe we will get more. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, we're kind of up for any ideas. So this is great to know that you've had better numbers.
I know we're about out of time, but that does bring up, because I think Ellen, we talked about this last year, but that sort of hybridization of our in-class classes, of also like having a Zoom link so that there are parents who can join even if the class is in person. Like that's kind of what I'm doing with my class. And again, it's a different situation, but at least for the students that are at home with COVID or whatever, they can still hear and see what's going on. And then through chat, or, and if, depending on if they're, I can put the microphone up to the computer, and then the whole room can hear when they're talking, like to, participate in communication. It's a hassle. It's just like one more thing for the instructor to have to manage. And especially if you have multiple people or troubleshooting, they're getting online and, things like that. But
I do my hybrid newborn class like that every week. And I didn't have any moms join via Zoom for many months, but now I'm getting a few more. And I had 17 moms a couple of weeks ago coming to our drop-in newborn class, and my public health nurse takes my computer's on a cart. She takes it around the room. But if a mom is talking over here and a baby is crying over here, I have to repeat the question that was asked. And then while it's being answered by the lactation consultant, I'm like, this mom asked about letdown. Yep, she's talking about the haka. And I don't have time. I have to get up and roll it over. Plus I have the moms in a huge room. I have them spread out. So it's a little bit easier if they're in a smaller space, but it's not easy to run a hybrid class. And if you don't have to do it, it meets needs, but it's a headache. I'm not going to lie. When no one shows up on a Monday on Zoom, I'm like, yes.
That's right. Well, thank you, everybody. It's been another fabulous conversation. It's so great to see everybody again. And coming full circle to Mary Kay's first question, I hope whoever you want to be this week, you get to be, and be that person that is even extra specialer than the extra special people you already are. So, but we'll be back again next week. I know, we'll be back again next week. If you have anything specific that the group, and you just want to let me know, and then I can introduce it, that's cool too. So, yeah, we'll just see you next week. And I hope you have a wonderful first full week of December. Bye, everyone.